Welcome to another episode of Systematic Geekology. This is a space where we seek to create and cultivate healthy conversations between those things we geek out on and the philosophical and theological questions that often arise out of our fandoms. Like, what does it mean to be human? What makes a hero? What makes a villain? How do the stories and narratives we geek out on shape how we live in the world? We are your priest to the geeks. We aren't all ordained, but we see ourselves as mediators at the intersection of geek culture and going deeper in our faith. We don't always have to agree, but we do respect each other, and we see everyone as a beloved child of God. Everyone geeks out on something, so come geek out with us and enjoy the show.
You're listening to an Anazal Ministries podcast.
What if Star-Lord joined the Green Lantern Corps instead of the Ravagers? Welcome, Systematic Geeks, to Systematic Geekology and our summer drive-in series, where we are watching, or maybe rewatching, for our sins, movies reviewed as rotten, and giving you our reaction. You can check out all of the drive-in series if you look at a playlist or subscribe to the podcast, all the ways that you can find things. There's probably a link in the show notes or the show description, something like that, to get all the other episodes. You want to hear about all the rotten movies. And here with me at the drive-in, rolling up, I'm guessing, as a surfer in one of those wood panel pickup trucks with a couple of boards in the back at the drive-in, is Will Rose. How you doing, Will?
I'm
Aloha.
good. Aloha. Yeah, I just rolled up in the drive-in with a couple boards on the roof and dripping wet with a wet bathing suit and wet sandy towels. And, you know, I think Green Lantern has some surfing vibes. He surfs on the energy of the universe. And so I think, you know, we can ride this wave of this rotten Green Lantern movie from 2011.
Awesome. That's right. So as we get our speakers hooked up in our cars, we are waiting for them to spool up Green Lantern from 2011, starring Ryan Reynolds, future Mrs. Ryan Reynolds, Blake Lively, or maybe future Mr. Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, Peter Sarsgaard, Mark Strong, and a whole bunch of other folks, including Amanda Waller, Angela Bassett, making her first of many appearances, the only person to come out of to survive this movie. Although, ironically, I don't think she actually survives this movie. But somehow her character is the only one who comes back.
That's right.
So, all right. We're at the drive-in. The movie is played out. We're headed back home. What are you thinking?
I'm feeling really good about myself. My self-esteem is super high. I'm feeling really lifted up because they talked about me a lot in this movie. They said will is the strongest energy in the universe, that will is stronger than fear. I feel really pumped up. Will defeated parallax and fear and that nasty color yellow. So I'm feeling pretty good. My self-esteem is really high on the way home. I'm like, man, they spoke well of me in this movie.
Yeah, good point. Forget Hollywood's power couple, the real star of this movie, Pastor Will Rose.
That's right. It's hard not to take it personally, but yeah, I feel great. I'm the strongest energy in the universe. I'll take that affirmation. That's what I'm taking.
Awesome.
How about you, Andy? What's the first reaction? You were driving home and I look at you and I'm like, Andy, thoughts, your first reactions to this movie?
Yeah. So it's tough to remember what my reaction was, 14 years ago when I first saw this movie. But my first reaction watching the movie a second time was how much it was a Guardians of the Galaxy riff 3 years before Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Your mileage may vary about what you expect from Hal Jordan, but this was not Hal Jordan. This was Peter Quill from the Guardians movie. He's got that like man-child screw up kind of energy. Including the fact that we're first introduced to adult Hal Jordan in bed with an anonymous woman that we never see again, who is very quick to put in his rearview mirror. I watched I don't know what you watched. I watched the extended version on HBO Max this time around. which starts with a longer prologue about the crash that his father died in, the plane crash that his father dies in. So you even have that Guardians of the Galaxy like opening sequence with the kid losing a parent and the trauma, and then cutting to them as an adult. Like it really had strong. This is the template for a Guardians movie vibe.
Yeah.
Of course, I don't know if that's what actually transpired. And it doesn't hurt the fact that there's sort of two prologues to the movie. There's the one that I think was in the theatrical version that is Tomar Ray giving a voiceover about the ancient history of the Green Lantern Corps and the Guardians who created it.
Yep.
Right. So you get that. So you've already got Guardians on the mind. And then we meet a character who is, basically Ryan Reynolds, but Ryan Reynolds doing, a character that Chris Pratt would do in a few years as well. As opposed to, I think of Hal Jordan as a bit more competent, a bit more of an adult, not a man-child. Right? I would have, I could imagine Dennis Quaid playing Hal Jordan once upon a time. I could see maybe like a Glenn Powell if you were casting right now. Of course, you cast Glenn Powell just about anybody right now. It seems like he's kind of the it girl of the moment. But so. It was maybe not a Hal Jordan story, but in a lot of ways a fairly competent, sci-fi superhero jam.
Yeah, it's driving away. Would I have thought, if I was seeing it the first time, would I be like, oh, Ryan Reynolds would be better suited for something like Deadpool. Maybe they should cast him as Deadpool. If I'm driving away thinking those thoughts, but if you think of the context of 2011 and the kind of the superhero movie arms race between Marvel and DC, and as fast as they can pump out and see if they can get their story, who can get to Avengers first, who can get to Justice League of America first? Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, are they going to eventually get to these superhero teams to culminate where these studios are going? And so you think of where, you had Iron Man, you had, in 2011, you got Thor and Cap coming out. Avengers was going to come out in 2012. You won't get Deadpool until 2016. But if you think about, the arms race of superhero movies, this is in there, and DC trying to get there first. And then Marvel's like, oh, you want to do a space movie? Well, we got some characters. We can do our, not Guardians of the Universe, we'll do our Guardians of the Galaxy. That's what we'll do. And make, and James Gunn will make it cool and rock and roll. I'm with you. This movie gets a 25% splat on Rotten Tomatoes, and with this series of trying to rewatch some Rotten movies and decide whether it's deserving of its grading or ranking. I was watching the movie with that in mind through that lens, and it's like, what is bad about this movie? What is good about this movie? What do I like about this movie? I think Ryan Reynolds is still Ryan Reynolds. I still like his quips. I like his clapbacks. I like his personality, but as we're watching, I'm like, this movie does really well the Green Lantern mythos. Like it nails the continuity from the comics in terms of Oa and the Guardians of the Universe and why the ring was created and all the different sectors and all the Green Lanterns and them being space cops. And I thought the overall look of the movie was great, but I kept thinking about Ryan Reynolds being Hal and all the Green Lanterns that we've gotten in the comics. Maybe Hal would be better at a different guy, maybe Guy Gardner, maybe something like that. And then thinking about who would be more of a kind of straight-laced, hot shot, but also more grounded kind of adult Hal Jordan. I'm right there with you. Yeah,
I thought all of the stuff when we get to Oa, the interacting with the other Guardians, the other Green Lanterns, rather, sorry, especially Mark Strong as Sinestro, right? I thought that was excellent casting. He really nails that. You can believe him as a highly respected Green Lantern, but also somebody who would be tempted or given to maybe a little bit of his own hubris to go in a different direction. Yeah. And as is teased at the very end of the film, I thought that the way that they handle the constructs, right? So one thing I think is easy to do in these kind of movies, and I think sometimes Marvel has fallen into this trap a little bit, is you have somebody with energy powers and it just turns into kind of generic blobs of energy, laser beams, all that kind of stuff. But they, to their, maybe not, to everybody's taste, maybe, there are certainly, when you can imagine anything, right? When you have something in which you can imagine anything, I'm sure there are folks out there who are very creative who could have come up with different solutions for what he could have used in different situations. But, you have him, turning that helicopter crash into a Hot Wheels car and a Hot Wheels track.
I love that. I loved it. I loved it because that's a callback to earlier. Like everyone's mad and pissed off at Hal Jordan. That was frustrating. Like it seemed like everybody in his world thinks he's like a disappointment or too much of a hotshot or thinking of himself, and everybody's pissed at him except for like maybe his nephew. And then like he sees his nephew's room in his birthday, this kind of Hot Wheels racetrack, and kind of looks at it, and then later on calls back to it as a Green Lantern construct. Goes like, "Oh, I really like how they did that. That was super cool. That was super cool." Yeah,
it's specific. It has a physicality to it, right? It does what a Hot Wheels car and a track does. It's not just sort of floating around doing whatever, blob, amorphous. And it's not maybe the most obvious thing, right? It's not the kind of first draft. Oh, how do you stop a helicopter crash? A big cushion or a big net or something like that. No, this is, a little bit more creative than that. Or at the very end when he needs to not get pulled into the sun and he creates a couple of, fighter jets that he straps into, right? It's something specific. It has some physicality to it. It calls back to who he is and what his vocation is. So I thought all that was well done. If I had to pick why I think the film didn't work or what people didn't respond to, I think there were two things going against it, and maybe three if you count, Ryan Reynolds was not playing Hal Jordan, but for non-comics fans, that's probably not a big deal.
Yeah.
I think the visual design choices cost it some enthusiasm. The very obviously CGI Green Lantern costumes, the very busy look to them. The CGI domino masks, all of that just kind of doesn't work as well, and I think doesn't hold up over time. And it's got one too many villains, right? I think they rushed into the Parallax story. Parallax suffers from two problems. One is, visually it's kind of an odd character to go up against. It's just this floating head with smoke tentacle things, just not a compelling thing. And it's too big of a scale to go from this guy is just learning the ropes of being a Green Lantern to defeating the fear entity that has, killed seasoned veteran Green Lanterns, that has stymied the Green Lantern Corps, that took, this tremendous effort to defeat the first time. So I really think, and there was thematically, there was a lot going on with Hector Hammond, right? In terms of the father issues, the getting powers from an alien entity. There are a lot of duality or mirror kind of relationships there that you could build off of, and just stick to a Hector Hammond story and build to Parallax in a subsequent film. But other than that, I thought had a lot going forward, including a script from the guys who would go on to run a lot of the very successcul CW DC shows.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. It was a lot to put in one movie. So if I was going to get back and why to get some of the CGI stuff, you're right. It looks very cartoony, looks very like video gamey. I was like, what am I watching? Of course, this is, over a decade ago. So what we've learned in terms of CGI and what we can do and put in a movie, it may not have aged well when it comes to that. But I even think, his mask was goofy, and some of those things kind of took me out of the movie. They even acknowledged at one point, like he goes and sees the Carol, and I'm like, there's no way she doesn't know who he is. Like, there's no way they're going to do this. And eventually she's like, Hal? And I'm like, good, thank you. I'm glad they acknowledge. She's like, take off that mask. It's stupid. And I'm like, thank you for being self-understanding when it comes to that. But I think it was all over the place. So many plots, subplots. The cast was absolutely incredible. Like, you got Tim Robbins, you got Taika Waititi is in this movie as his best friend. I'm like, what are we doing? Angela Bassett, Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, and then you even have Boba Fett. You have Tamara Morrison, who is Abin Sur. Like, immediately I heard his voice. I was like, oh, that's Boba Fett. I know that voice. I know that voice more than anything. I watched the Book of Boba Fett. I know what's going on. So the cast was great, but I think it was all over the place to put everything into one. I guess they didn't know if they're going to get an extra movie or a sequel or whatever, and how you build. But I think that's how the Marvel movies built these origin stories and played the long game to lead to Avengers and to lead to Infinity War and to lead to Endgame. DC was really playing catch up, and maybe they feel like they had to put all in that movie. I didn't think I think Dr. Hammond and him as a villain was pretty good. It was pretty like, oh man, I really feel for this guy and what's going on in his life and what he was kind of being pushed to do, be in the shadow of Hal and the rest, and his dad, Tim Robbins, not the senator, not paying much attention. That telepathy of being able to read people's minds and hear their really thoughts about what they're really thinking about you is pretty, that's torturing. So yeah, I think I love the cast, but you're right. I think the reason it got such a crazy low rating is just because it's all over the place, and you get some whiplash. One minute you're on Earth, you're doing a slow dance with your girl, and the next minute you're zapped to another planet and trying to soak up all the of being called to be a space cop with all these aliens, just discovering that they're aliens. I think it's pretty jarring. I love the learning curve I love a good learning curve of a superhero learning how to be a superhero. And that had elements of that in this movie, but all in all, it was pretty quick and brushed over and moved pretty fast and was kind of all over the place.
Yeah, you have a hard time believing that, again, this kind of man-child sort of character who is very good at flying planes, but doesn't seem to be competent in anything else in his life. Mm-hmm. Is instantly the most competent of all these Green Lanterns and of the several thousand lanterns from various sectors. It is a hard sell, and I think I think I probably would like to see them still do some kind of wider Green Lantern Corps element to the movie. I think that does add something to it. I think if it had mm-hmm. just been on Earth and him and Hector Hammond, I think that does lose the thing. I like the scope of it. I like that we got maybe just because I like that we got to meet Mark Strong as Sinestro and Michael Clark Duncan as Kilowog. Yeah, and mm-hmm. a little Kilowog bit of Jeffrey Rush as Tomar Ray, which again, these are A-list actors giving their voices only in some cases to these kind of goofy small alien roles. I liked that we got to go there and meet those folks and get that scope and even see kind of some of the Easter eggs in the bigger crowd shots of other less well known lanterns and maybe some new creations for the film or whatever. But I think that kind of stuff is fun and adds some scope to it. But I think you want to build up to something like Parallax. I can get why the Sinestro Corps War I think was a pretty hot thing in the comics around mm-hmm. that time. Mm-hmm. And the Parallax story wasn't that far in the past. And so I could see the temptation to, this is the big Green Lantern stuff. So let's just go there. Yeah, but that's the source material that the nerds are reading, and so maybe we give them some eye candy when it comes to that. I mean, part of the reason that Andy and I chose this is we love superheroes, but yeah, we got a big Superman movie coming up here in a month or so, and there's going to be a Green Lantern in that one, and how the DC universe kind of reboots, restructures James Gunn's DC universe, where how the Green Lantern mythos emerges out of that, whether it's on a HBO Max series or whether like Peacemaker or whether it's in the movies. I'm interested to see where they go with Green. I've always liked Green Lantern. Who doesn't want a magic ring to choose you out of the universe? Like as a kid, after watching Super Friends and reading some of the comics, like I would stand out on my porch at night, look at the stars, and be like, I wish someone would give me a superpower ring. That would be cool. So I like this character. I like the Green Lantern mythos and as superheroes and across the universe, this kind of cosmic scale of something larger than myself out there. But to throw it all in this movie, I do remember seeing this in the theater with a friend of mine when I was way back when, and kind of walking out and going, yeah, okay, that was a movie. There was a lot. They did a lot there. Yeah, it is interesting to try to remember back to putting this alongside Thor, Captain America. It definitely doesn't shine or sing quite as well as those films, but also those are looking back, those are fairly small scale films compared to what where Marvel would go. And so it is an interesting contrast. And I do appreciate the ambition of the film. But I think I am more excited about the upcoming Green Lantern stuff, especially the show. If I remember correctly, it's Kyle Chandler has been cast as Hal Jordan. and Aaron
Yeah.
Pierre as John
Mhm.
Stewart. And those both
Yep.
strike me as great choices. So yeah, I think there's a lot of potential here.
I think so too.
So other good things. I have to, being me, I have to shout out. A good thing about this movie was we got a little bit of a lecture from Hector Hammond about archaea, the third domain of life that is often underlooked. As a microbiologist, got to give a shout out to that. So we learn a little bit about these other microbes that are fairly recent discovery and largely a product of our ability to do sequencing and study microbes in much greater detail. A lot of these things you can't even grow in the laboratory. It talks about them being extremophiles or whatever. They're not necessarily all extremophiles, but a lot of them are. They can't even necessarily grow them in the laboratory. So we didn't know about them because for a long time, the only microbes that we could study were the ones that we could grow in culture. But with sequencing technology, now we can scan through the DNA of what's out there, even if we can't grow it, and we found all these new and interesting little critters. Interesting facts about archaea. So far, we haven't identified any of them that cause human diseases. All the bacterial diseases are caused by alpha bacteria, not archaea. And speaking of Thor, there's a whole branch of the archaea that have been named after the Asgardians. So there's like a Thor one and a Loki one. The full names of them are quite a tongue twister. But yeah, there's this whole Asgard branch of the tree of life now for these archaea, and they are our closest. That. They are our closest relatives among the single cellular prokaryotes to humans and all their eukaryotes are these Asgardian ones.
Look at there. That tree of life extended its branches and roots across the verse and multiverse. I like it.
Any other good elements of this film that you want to shout out?
Well, if we're going to think a little deeper and do some geekology here, like I love the idea of the ring choosing you, like go find a worthy host, kind of thing. It goes to a lot of things. Us and, there's that scripture passage of you did not choose me, I chose you. You have it in Harry Potter, the wand chooses you. I visited Universal, and my kids were at the place where you get a Harry Potter wand, and of course the wand chose them in that room because they wanted us to buy it for our kids. But that whole understanding of being chosen, we even have it part of our send off. We're all a chosen people, a geekdom of priests. Like we're chosen, and the ring choosing you to go and do good, and that whole aspect of why they doubted Hal, like, why did it choose you? You're just a human. You're young when it compares to the whole universe. Like humans are just barely a blip on the radar when it comes to the billions of years of the galaxy. And he even says at one point, I'm only human. But that's part of our gift is that willpower of the human. So the ring choosing him and him discovering why it chose him and other people discovering why it chose him, that emergence of understanding. I like that aspect of it. I like that part of our fandom and even our theology and philosophy of understanding who we are in the life of God, that we're chosen. So yeah, the ring choosing him was I like that mythos of Green Lantern, and a part of this movie that helped me reflect a little bit about who we are as humans in the grand scale of a universe that could be teeming with life or microbes or extremophiles. I don't know. It could be out there. Yeah, I mean, what's your take on that? Does that hit a certain way in terms of a ring choosing you or being chosen?
Yeah, I'll that wasn't the thing that I latched onto the most. I was thinking more about the fear element, giving into fear, how we combat fear, and with all due respect to you and your namesake, whether in fact will is the thing that cancels out fear.
Yeah.
Scripturally, we talk about perfect love being the thing that drives out fear. The whole willpower thing has always struck me, well, maybe not always, but as an adult has struck me as a bit in the objectivist flavor, right? And perhaps even a little bit more authoritarian than is comfortable at times.
Yeah.
I feel like reading some of the modern Green Lantern comics, and especially as they've kind of expanded the rainbow of different ring cores and so forth, feels like they're a little bit saddled by this. We associated the color green with willpower and so forth. I'm not sure the mythology all works out that way. Or,
right.
certainly I would prefer a different theology than one is getting from the Green Lantern comics all the time, and a different.
And they mix that in the comics. What purple, isn't purple compassion? And they have a blue. There's like a faith element to blue. And of course you have red and yellow and avarice and fear and all those things. But the color spectrum and attaching certain kind of emotions or willpower or virtues to the color spectrum. I think, expanding that universe and what it means rather than just a binary of green versus yellow. I like how they expanded this, but I think, yes, there's some other colors out there with rings that have some virtues and other kind of things that we'd understand, especially from a scripture point of view of love and compassion and mercy being pretty important and powerful as well.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember I think it was the indigo is compassion and the violet is love or passion or something like that. They're the ones that are kind of blue is hope, I think, right?
Blue is hope, which, hey, if we're going to go, liturgical, that's the color of Advent. That's the color of hope leading up to Christmas. So yeah, they got that one right.
Right. And the repeated phrase of the one blue lantern that we see most often is all will be well. Right.
Yeah.
That's a very scriptural or Christian phrase to repeat. So there are definitely things to appreciate about those comics. But yeah, I find it a little bit hard sometimes to be a fan of to cheer for the Green Lanterns and their willpower, exerting their will over the rest of the galaxy and the universe.
Okay, my ego's deflated a little bit on the ride home. Like, okay, I get it. Will isn't the strongest energy in the universe. I need to calm down a little bit. I hear you. That's totally fair. That's totally fair. I need to have some humility here as on the ride home after this movie. As Ryan Reynolds did as the years passed on, maybe some humility. Maybe that's why the end credit scene to Deadpool 2 had him assassinate himself and then turn to the camera and say, "You're welcome, Canada," after he's reading the script to Green Lantern. One of the best end credit scenes of all time. I tell you, the Deadpool end credit scenes, the first one with him being Ferris Bueller about go home, why are you still here? And then him time traveling, correcting the timeline was pretty epic. I mean, that. If you haven't seen that, folks, Deadpool isn't for everybody, but some of those end credit scenes you can find somewhere. It's just man, it's so witty and so funny.
And somewhere there was a lawyer or a group of lawyers who probably lost some sleep that opening weekend about whether that end credit sequence would cost them their job, having signed off on it.
Yep. I agree. Cool.
All right, well, we're talking end credits. Maybe we should wrap up here.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts, or do you want to talk about a snack that you bring to the drive-in? Maybe it's not a classic snack bar serving. What are you sneaking in because they don't sell it at the snack bar?
Man, I'm just such a big fried chicken fan, and I know they're selling like chicken tenders and nachos and all kinds of stuff and beer and movie theaters. It's not just popcorn and candy anymore. They've expanded a lot of things, but in terms of like this particular drive-in, I'm bringing like a good like 12-piece basket of just full chicken, like the leg and the thighs and the breast and the wings. I'm bringing that in. That's what I want. That's the full dinner. I don't even need anything else. I'm just eating a bunch of fried chicken, a whole basket of fried chicken and a soft drink for this movie.
All right. We've got a company lunch coming up next week at my work, and we are bringing in from a British pub here in Pittsburgh, like meat pies.
Oh,
the classic savory pie, and so that's been on my mind. I'm thinking that would be a good movie snack.
Nice.
It's portable. It's something you can eat with your hand, but it's a hearty meal. It's not just crunchy carbs. It's got you can get some meat and veggies in there, some protein, and it. I think that would be a good snack. Maybe
a little bit more nutritious and vitamin rich than my just basket of full fried chicken.
Maybe, but maybe not. I mean, it's not exactly. I say vegetable. I think maybe they wave a vegetable in the general direction of the pie as they are putting in the meat.
It's
and
not
gravy.
a salad. It's not a salad. It's still a meat pie.
And then all the lard in the crust. So I'm not claiming any sort of moral high ground here with my snack food.
Your willpower is strong. Your willpower is strong. I love it, Andy. Yeah, should we recommend this movie to folks? I mean, should they go out and watch this? I think leading up to the DC universe, to compare this with what's coming up next, it's not a bad watch if you got an afternoon and you got time to spare. Why not go back and watch this time capsule timepiece of a 2011 superhero movie?
Yeah, I think it has more going for it than it does not, or somewhere in the middle. I think if I remember correctly, the popcorn score, the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes was closer to 50%. That feels a little bit more right. The 25% feels a bit harsh. Yeah. If nothing, and again, the secret origin of Angela Bassett as Amanda Waller, who is the through line through this DC Universe incarnation, the next one with the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker, and the current one, I imagine, since Peacemaker season 2 is coming out, and I suspect she's still involved in that. And
true, I love it. I love that. What do you think we should end with the oath? I have it in front of me. I can say the oath. Maybe we end with the Green Lantern oath and see if a ring comes our way in the next over the course of the summer.
Take us out. Charge up your willpower with the oath.
All right, here comes Will coming at you with the oath. In brightest day, in blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight. Let those who worship evil's might beware my power, Green Lantern's light.
Hey, podcast fam. Want to stay even more connected with the show? We've got you covered. Check us out on Instagram and Blue Sky, where we're posting exclusive content and bonus videos and fun updates that you won't get anywhere else. From sneak previews of upcoming episodes to bonus content, our social accounts are the best way to keep the conversation going. Plus, it's a great spot for you to interact with other listeners and share your thoughts. We love hearing from you. When you follow us, it helps us grow and continue bringing you the content that you love. Whether it's a funny poll, a quick clip from today's episodes, or just random thoughts, you'll feel more plugged into everything we're doing. So go ahead and hit that follow button on Instagram and Blue Sky. It's one more way to be a part of the show and keep the good vibes flowing. Thanks for being a part of the family, and we can't wait to see you there.
Hello there, listener. Thanks for listening. This is Evan Garcia. I hope you enjoyed this episode. We just wanted to come in and remind you that this episode is part of a bigger network of podcasts called the Anazao Podcast Network. We have great shows like the Whole Church Podcast, Kung Fu Pizza Party, and the Homily with Pastor Chill Will. Chill Will. The podcast has sermons from our host, Pastor Will. Great sermons every time. The Kung Fu Pizza Party is Brandon Knight showing his expertise and his passion for everything Kung Fu films. And he dispenses a bunch of wisdom. Great show. And the Whole Church Podcast, where Josh and TJ interview people from different denominations and church traditions to pursue greater church unity. It's a great podcast to see what other denominations are included. And we just want to say thank you so much for listening. See you next time.